And we are live on a Wednesday morning. It is Valentine's Day. Put my contacts in, put on a nice pretty shirt, thinking I was preparing to do a reaction to the new Godzilla X Kong trailer. Then I got on Twitter, and something else was revealed to the world. We got the official Marvel announcement. Oh, that's not cropped right. For who is playing the Fantastic Four, and it's one of the most anticlimactic announcements of all time, and one of the strangest ways to make an announcement like this, given how coy they've played about this casting and how long we have known who the cast of the Fantastic Four will be. So, point of reference, Disney acquired Fox back in 2019, almost 5 years ago. A couple months after that, at Comic-Con, in July of 2019, they said the Fantastic Four is coming, and that has led to 4.5 years of rumors and speculation about casting. And then over the last 2.5 years, intense rounds of the internet claiming people have been cast, they're in negotiations, and just cycling through writers, directors. And then the last year, it started to kind of narrow. We started getting these short lists, and we started to see the same names sticking around longer and longer and longer, fewer reports of new names coming into the list. And so for quite literally months, everyone has known who's playing the Fantastic Four, but they didn't announce it. And it's been very clear Pedro Pascal was going to play Mr. Fantastic, but they didn't announce it. And then even last week on some SAG event, they listed him as playing the part of the movie. The director shared that on his Instagram stories, and they still didn't confirm it. And in fact, then the director deleted his Instagram account. This was last week. All this waiting. When are they going to make the announcement? They're playing so coy. Why are they doing all of this? What's happening? When are they going to finally tell us who's the Fantastic Four? All of it leading up to a Valentine's Day Twitter post. Valentine's Day Twitter post was the way that they decided to announce this, which is just like so strange, anticlimactic. Like, oh, we've got this great idea. You know, when people think the Fantastic Four, they think Valentine's Day card. not a big event where they walk the cast out. All of it, like, the director of the movie deleted his Instagram account a week ago because he broke like he wasn't supposed to say anything, all for this. Happy Valentine's Day from the first family of Marvel. That is just too funny to me. It's just so peculiar, so out there in left field. But this also means after 4.5 years, after people like me did all of our fan cast videos, all of that fun stuff, we finally know who will be starring in the Fantastic Four movie for Marvel Studios in the MCU that comes out next year. And as I go into this, I've talked to this a little bit on some of my videos on my second channel, but kind of want to go through each of the people that we have announced in here playing each of our parts. So the main one on here, Pedro Pascal, will be Mr. Fantastic after all kinds of names have been rumored, speculated. And then the one that seemed to be locked in was Pedro Pascal. And I love Pedro Pascal. I love the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. I only want the best for the guy. I think he's very versatile. He can be very funny like he was in that Nicolas Cage movie from a couple years back. I don't see him as Mr. Fantastic at all. I think this is such an odd pick. I only want the best for him. But I also want the best for this movie. And this feels like everyone else said no. Felt like everyone else wasn't comfortable with the commitment, the script, something. And Pedro Pascal will say yes to everything. He's taking over all the franchises. The same way that Chris Pratt gets all the voice roles, Pedro Pascal gets all of the franchises. And so I don't see this one at all. I don't see it as a good fit. It's not like it ruins the movie for me, but I don't get it. Like, this is not in any way seem like an obvious person to be playing Mr. Fantastic. The vibe, anything about it, it just, like, perhaps there's that sense of he's the internet's daddy to little girls and zombie apocalypses and to little aliens in a galaxy far, far away. So now he's the father of the first family of the MCU. Of Marvel. Outside of that, I just don't see him as the right person for Mr. Fantastic. But moving right along, then we have Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. And I think that's a good pick. I'm all for it. She's fantastic. Love her ever since she popped up in Mission Impossible. And then she kept up with Jason Statham and The Rock in Hobbs and Shaw. She can be charming movie star and she can be dramatic actress. So she's got everything that you want. She's a very pretty lady as well. And so I think this is great casting. She doesn't, whenever it comes to casting these iconic roles, my general rule of thumb is I want someone that doesn't already have an iconic role for them. Like, I liked Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm very pro Batfleck, but casting Ben Affleck, the movie star, as Batman, I was opposed to that on pure principle, and that's the standard I always apply. She is someone that doesn't have a franchise, so based off my criteria that I always use, I think that she is a solid, great pick for it, so I'm there for it. Moving right along, Eddie Munson himself, Eddie Munson himself, Joseph Quinn. He was the breakout star of Stranger Things 4. I think he has I think they said they only has 14 minutes of screen time. 14 minutes of screen time in Stranger Things 4, and people fell in love with this guy. I hosted a Stranger Things event for Stranger Things Day a year and a half ago, and half the people in the room, it was a packed theater of Stranger Things fans, massive theater, half the people there were dressed up like Eddie Munson, his character with 14 minutes of screen time, because people loved what he brought to it. On paper, there's only so much there, there's only so much screen time, but people loved him. So when that happens, when you just connect with people on that level, you're probably about to get a lot of offers. So he's about to star in the next A Quiet Place movie, and then he now has his comic book movie role. That I'm all for it. I don't know the direction they're taking, but he is someone that, once again, he's known for Stranger Things, but 15 minutes of screen time, long hair, but not established really with some other IP in a big sense. So I'm all for it. This one feels like great casting to me. Also, I've been to a bunch of Comic Cons where he's been at it, and my stage was near where they were doing the photos for him. And every time they said his name, people would freak out. They'd start screaming and go crazy. My family was walking back to our hotel room after a photo or other people photo op opportunity with Eddie Munson, and we saw this girl outside just bawling, crying. And we're like, my wife and I are like looking at, like, we're concerned. Her mom goes, "Oh no, she just had the best moment of her life. You wouldn't believe, Joseph Quinn touched her hand, and she can't stop shaking. She can't stop crying because she's so happy that she met Joseph Quinn." 14 minutes of screen time in Stranger Things 4, and that's how much people love him. So this guy, I think, has a bright future so long as he can bring that same magnetism to everything else. I'm all for this one. Final one on here. I didn't have strong opinions on this, didn't know too much what to think of it, but for our The Thing, Ben Grimm, Ebon Moss-Bachrach. I have no idea how to pronounce. I'm sure I botched that horribly. So he's one of our leads of the show The Bear, which I hadn't seen until last month. And I watched through both seasons. Fantastic show. Didn't know what to expect going into it, but it's very compelling stuff. Very interesting. And his character gets one of the best arcs, especially going into season 2, what they do with him and how they unpack his character. And so he can be funny, he can be intense, and he's very different. Like, in my mind, Vic Mackey, Michael Chiklis, as much as I have issues with those Fantastic Four movies from 20 years ago, that vibe Michael Chiklis brought was what I generally think of for The Thing, Ben Grimm. So it's a different vibe, but I can see it. So I'm all optimistic for it. Another one of these ones where someone has a breakout role on a TV show. Those are the people that I want you to snatch up and then give these next big roles. I don't want us just cycling through the same 20 actors that are on every short list. So it's interesting. It's a little outside the box. It's not the most obvious, but I dig it. So I look at our lineup here. 3 of the 4, I'm like, yeah, I'm down for it. Those are people that I want to see their big breakout. I want them to get their opportunity. I've loved them in the things that I've seen them in thus far. I'm down with it. And then there's Pedro Pascal, whom I love. who I only want the best for. I just don't see it. I don't think it's a good fit. I don't like casting someone that's already the Mandalorian, that's already the star of The Last of Us, that's already in the DCEU. Actually, he's in 2 different Wonder Woman projects. He was in a failed pilot for Wonder Woman from 10 years back for like a TV show. And then, of course, he was in Wonder Woman 1984. I don't want him to dominate all of the franchises. And I just don't see it. Whereas I see it with everybody else, and they fit my criteria for what I like for some of these pulling in people that have an established resume, have shown that they can connect with audiences, they have talent as an actor, but they're not identified with these gigantic standing roles that have been around for a long time. So, but I'm cool with it. Like, if just one of ours are out there in left field, that I don't get Pedro Pascal. If casting Pedro Pascal is my biggest negative of your casting, we're probably doing good here, because that's not like, Pedro Pascal, why have you ruined the project? No. That's not the direction I would have gone. He's great. He's versatile. I'm sure he'll find something that can win me over with all of this. So anyway, that's what we have for today. They finally announced who will be our Fantastic Four via Valentine's Day card. Posted on Twitter. Such a weird way to make an announcement like this. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know if this was like just they felt like they had to, but why would you delay making the announcement for so long just for this? That seems so just bizarre, baffling to me. Doesn't make me laugh though, so that's kind of fun. All right, let me see what we have in here. Couple questions kind of coming in. I have to hop off soon because I think the Godzillaverse trailer that I've already dressed up for, that's the reason I have my contacts in, drops in 18 minutes. But I can grab a few questions while we're here. From Michael with the super chat, thank you so much. Okay, Sean, when will you be watching the masterpiece of Madam Web? Hopefully today. I haven't seen it yet. Honestly, if the Godzilla trailer wasn't dropping probably in 18 minutes, I would be at the theater right now to watch it at an 11 a.m. showing. But because I was pretty sure there was going to be a trailer dropping at 11 a.m., I'm sitting at home waiting for the trailer to drop, and then I'm going to try and rush to the theater and try and watch it at noon, and then have just enough time to pick up my daughter from preschool. So I think I'm watching it today. My review for it won't be out until tomorrow, but I'll have my out of the theater reaction for Madam Web almost certainly today. Random Ray says, underwhelming announcement, not gonna lie. Right. I like it when you make an announcement for something that we've been waiting 4.5 years for. Like, we've been literally waiting for this announcement for 4.5 years, and it's just a Twitter Valentine's Day card. Like, this would have worked if we didn't already know who they were. If the rumors were wrong, if all the speculation, if the director hadn't tweeted out Pedro Pascal was the star of the movie, you could do something like this and it'd be like, whoa, Valentine, we've got the casting and look who it is. But we've known this exact list of people for months now. And so when you make that as your announcement, it doesn't really work. It doesn't carry any weight. It just, the air's been let out of the balloon. It's just like, what? Valentine's Day card? That's weird. Brian Murphy, so who should play Doctor Doom? Well, it's always tough. Like, Doctor Doom in particular is a weird one to fan cast because it really depends on what you're doing with the character. Because there's a big difference between, is a large percentage of the movie the helmet's off or the helmet's on? Are we basically casting a voice and a stuntman in a suit? And you have to know what the angle is. So I don't really have someone in mind because I don't know what they're aiming to do with the character. I just need to know more. And that kind of informs who plays the part. That's why like a lot of fan casts don't really work, because it's essentially us looking and seeing what we've seen in the comics, animation, previous movies, and who's an actor today that looks like that, and you think you could see doing what this picture. But what we don't know is the unique specific take. We don't know what they're trying to do, and so it feels like empty. And, you know, there's a lot of these names. It's the kind of the generic list. Like, Mads Mikkelsen, people threw his name out. It was like, wait a minute, he was already in one of these movies. Ben Mendelsohn is one I think I saw one people threw out there. And it's like, he's also been in some of these movies. It also gets a little bit tough when you've got 45 entries in the MCU you've already got all of the actors pretty much cast in some role in your gigantic cinematic universe. So it's a small list of people that haven't already been in something. But I just need to know, are they in the helmet? Is he out of the helmet? What's the angle? Where are we going with it? That dramatically changes who the list of people that I look at to see who I would think could be a good fit for the role. The Disney Nerd, moderator of the channel. If you get blocked, it's because of him. He thought you were being rude. He's been deputized by me. He says, a Godzilla trailer's coming today? Yes, indeed. Probably in 15 minutes. When do you think this takes place? Thank you for the super chat. So, I loved the idea of making it a period piece movie. How do you make an MCU film that stands out and is a little bit different? What if you set a lot of it in the 1960s and kind of give it that 60s vibe? Go back to the original time period of when the comics came out. That would give it such a different, interesting flavor to it. And then, whether perhaps through the accident or something else, they get stuck in the quantum realm. And maybe that's the first third is set in the 60s. Quantum realm accident happens, and then they're pulled out into the modern times for the next 2/3 of the film. That's the inciting incident that gives them their powers. Also, they get stuck in the quantum realm. They come out on the other side, and they have their powers. I think that's kind of interesting. If you look at our picture that they gave us, there's a couple little details in here that are kind of interesting. When you see this robot right here, this robot next to the thing, that reminds me of the Nintendo robot that you could get for the Nintendo Entertainment System, which is 80s. Reminds me of Short Circuit. This era of robot, that to me is 80s. So I look at the graphic and it made me go, are they hitting at us that we're going to the 80s? If we're not doing 60s, I think doing something in a different time period where the world of the MCU is less saturated, everything set in the modern timeline in the MCU really starts to have this feeling of why didn't you ask for help for anyone down the street? Because you've so populated the world with superheroes that anything that happens, you think, why can't you call the superhero down the street? Why did the superhero down the street also show up? So if you set it in a different time period, you kind of eliminate that problem. But I don't have any strong opinions on it. I don't have we're all just purely speculating, but I like the idea of this movie being a time period film, and that robot gives me 80s vibes. But I think there's several things that they could do which would be pretty fun. With the cast officially announced, who do you want to play Doctor Doom? So we already talked about this one. I can't really dive into it too much, on who should play Doctor Doom until I know his role in the film, in the universe, really. If you're just putting a suit on the guy, you want one of these guys with these imposing, thick voices that can be monotone in a sense, but it says so much. You're basically casting a voice actor that carries weight, and they just need to be able to carry a couple scenes with the helmet off. They don't even particularly need to be this big, imposing dude. There's a lot of guys that are small stature, have amazing voices, and then you put the stuntman in the suit or whatever. But I need to know what they're trying to do to be able to even jump into the realm of much speculation on who would be right for the part. Some guy says, did you see the test screening reactions to King to the Planet of the Apes? I have not heard anything about that. So, no, I have not. If Doom isn't the villain, then who do you think? Well, I think they should do Doom as a villain. That's the direction that I would go. He's been the villain of the previous Fantastic Four movies, but he's also one of the big holes in the MCU. We don't have Doom. He's one of the most iconic Marvel villains that there is. He has ties to Kang. So whether we're continuing with Kang or replacing Kang, Doom makes sense. Doom is the direction to go. It also, when I think, I don't have this deep knowledge of Fantastic Four villains because they have one that is the big, gigantic, prominent one that you think of. And then from there, it's not like you have a bunch of real obvious ones that aren't associated with other characters or aren't established already. So I think Doctor Doom is the answer for where you want to go for the MCU, for the Fantastic Four, for all of it. I think he's the right person, but I just don't know what that looks like. Who do you think should be Galactus? Well, how do you cast a big green cloud over the Earth? I don't, like with all of these, it's like there's characters like Sue Storm. There's a look, there's an energy that's a vibe that's very much like an actor, and so you can see, yeah, can Vanessa Kirby do something in that ballpark? But when you think like Doctor Doom, it's like a Darth Vader situation. Someone's in a suit. Galactus, you're talking about planet-sized, gigantic space alien in the helmet suit. Like, it's like casting that and having a fan cast, like a vision for who should be the guy that's the size of the solar system in a big suit. Once again, you're kind of casting a voice more than the other part to it, because it's so much about commanding through what they're saying. But look, also kind of like, how do you do Galactus? How did, like, the green cloud in Rise of the Silver Surfer? Well, that was a bad idea. That didn't work. So what do you do? But all of these ones, I need to know what the take is. I need to know the angle that they're going to bring Galactus into live action, because floating man in space, that's really tough to pull off and make it a battle that makes sense. Like, how does it look real? How does it not just in the human mind go, no? How do you craft that, capture that? That's why they did the weird cloud thing, because they're just trying to find an answer that worked in the format. And I don't, like, I just need something more concrete. Will Galactus be in Fantastic Four? We don't know. Like, and I'm not really into speculation. Like, we don't know the plot. We don't know the time period. We've had casting rumor leaks, but there aren't like a bunch of people leaking what the plot is. I haven't heard anything or seen anything about that, so we do not know. Bruce Crawford, thanks so much for the super chat. Doctor Strange mentioned the Fantastic Four being from the 60s in the Multiverse of the Madness film during the Illuminati scene. More evidence of this thing that we want. Now, Multiverse of Madness, Illuminati, very different renditions. Obviously, John Krasinski. They're doing all, when we go multiverse, rules don't have to apply. Continuity is intentionally entirely different. But they said that. Like that, when you say something like that, you're putting something out there that they wanted us to see and hear. The idea of Jacob Martin in the chat. Adam Driver as Dr. Doom. Like I said, because Adam Driver has such a screen presence. I feel it. Take number one, he would do a great job. He'd do a great job because he's a great actor, versatile actor. Take two, this just feels like typecasting. How did he become famous Adam Driver? He put on a suit and a helmet and was a big, imposing guy. Villain. Kylo Ren. Then Dr. Doom, it's a little bit too one-to-one. That they typically don't like to do things like that because it feels a little bit too obvious. But if they cast it, he would do a great job. As always, I don't want Kylo Ren as Dr. Doom, but if he's got the helmet on, who cares anyway? I'm not even seeing his face, so I don't even know how much that would particularly apply. Can only go a few minutes longer because I probably have this trailer dropping soon. Do you think we'll see anyone here in Deadpool 3? Well, some people think we already saw Dr. Doom in the Deadpool 3 trailer. When I watched it the first time, when I rewatched it, like when I do my trailer reactions, I watch it the one time, and that is the first time I watch it. And a lot of times I'm going to watch it one more time, and then let's talk about it. Whenever I do that, when I watch it, I pause on images to try and see if there's something in there. So I paused because I was like, is that Dr. Doom? I don't think it's Dr. Doom, but maybe there's something to that. I think it's possible that they'll do some teases, that they'll throw a little bit something in there. I think that's entirely on the table. But that's not something I'm strongly thinking would, like, I think it's far more likely we'll see Chris Evans as Johnny Storm than we'll see Joseph Quinn in the movie. I'll put it that way. I think it's a lot more likely that we're going to see people from 15, 20 years ago from the Fox version of these characters than do the modern ones, because you don't want to introduce such important characters as a joke. I wouldn't think they'd want to do that. Then again, they just introduced them to us with a Christmas card or a Valentine's Day card. So maybe I'm totally off, and that's exactly what they would do. Oh, Chewy says, I think Pedro has the charisma to pull it off. Mr. Daredevil to Chewy, I think Pedro has the charisma to pull it off. I don't doubt his charisma, his screen presence. It's a matter of fit. Does this actor fit this character? Is he the best choice for this character? There's a ton of characters that I think Pedro Pascal is fantastic for. You know, we love the Mandalorian, even though we've seen his face for 15 seconds because he's so good, even with just his voice. But so we love Pedro Pascal. But is he the right guy for this specific role? I don't see it. He's not the guy that I would go with. So to close things out, if you're joining in just a little bit late, we do have our casting for the Fantastic Four. And it is Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, which we've known for a while. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, which I really enjoyed that pick. I think that's a good pick. Joseph Quinn is Johnny Storm. Like that pick as well. Very excited for both of them. And then Ebon Moss-Bachrach, which I am absolutely sure I'm mispronouncing his name. Another one that I like. So 3 of the 4 I like. They announced all of this via Valentine's Day card, which is kind of funny to me. That so we'll see. Ken throws this in here. People did doubt Chris Evans as Captain America, and that turned out. Look at how that turned out well. I think that's a little bit different though, because Chris Evans, kind of his big breakout movie was not another teen movie where he played like just the obnoxious rowdy guy and crass raunchy humor, and then he was Johnny Storm, and like, it's a kind of a different sort of situation. Like, we'd only seen him in his early 20s being rowdy. And then we saw him in this movie, Sunshine. This is a sci-fi film, and I went, maybe he does have a serious side. But I was worried about the casting until I saw Sunshine. And then, of course, he did a great job. But that's a little bit different of a situation than seeing an actor that we've seen in a lot of things, that we've seen his versatility. We've seen how he plays, it's not quite the same thing as a Chris Evans, who we saw from like 20 to 28, and it was always rowdy guy. And versus Pedro Pascal is in his late 40s. We've seen him do a lot of different things. So it's a little bit different. He's great. Do I think he'll do a bad job? No. Do I think he fits this part? I don't really see it. But he's great. I'm not like worried about, like, my fear about the project is are too many cooks in the kitchen. When you have a project that has taken this long to lock in a director, lock in the writers, lock in the screenplay, it feels like they're overthinking it a little bit too much. And therefore, there's concerns. Like, there's issues with that. There's kind of some of the examples people are giving, like, they also hated Robert Pattinson as Batman. The people that hated Robert Pattinson as Batman are the people that had only seen him in Twilight, though. Everyone that had seen him in all the small indie stuff that he did the 10 years after Twilight, between Twilight and getting cast as Batman, none of them were concerned. The people that were concerned were the ones that had only seen him doing Twilight. Twilight boy? Really? Sparkling vampires? Vampire baseball? This is going to be Batman? It wasn't the people that saw Good Times. It wasn't the people that saw all of his dramatic roles. So, once again, it's people that didn't have the right data set, a full data set that were concerned, not everyone else that saw that looked at everything else that he's able to do. Where with Pedro, we've seen him in high profile roles doing a lot of different things, and it's just like, it's not an obvious connect. Like, that there's a reason nobody fan cast him, despite him being someone that gets cast in all these roles and he's on every short list for everything. The reason nobody fan cast him because it's not an obvious choice to do it. Already talked about this one. If you scroll back in the live stream, I already talked about this one. Do you think the 60s aesthetic in the post will translate to the movie? I talked about this earlier, so you can just backtrack. I hope so. I hope that's what we're doing. Also talked about how it might be the 80s because of that robot. But thanks so much for sticking around with me for 6 years now. Thank you so much. All right. Well, actually, I got to hop off now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the super chats. the comments, the discussion, all of that fun stuff. I think someone is saying I talked about it at 11:59, or he could be referencing something different when I talked about that. But if he's giving you the time code to answer your question, thank you so much for doing that. But I think a Godzilla trailer's dropping right now. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm going to drop off of this and I could have stayed on another hour. But I might have a trailer I need to react to. Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section if you are joining in late, and keep talking movies and TV too much.